Racism is a motherfucker. I have to say it plain and bold like that. That's one thing that I hate. I don't hate anyone, but I do hate racism. I hate it because of what it does, how it lies, steal, kill, rape, rob, how it belittles and keep one people from rising and step on another. Like, I hate it. That's one thing. That's one thing I can say, man. I've had love and been burnt by different people. But racism is something that's always plagued the black man in America. And I don't care who you are, you're not going to get around it. It's going to get you for money, fame, image. It's going to get you. It's like you can't avoid it. You can be upfront, honest, and somehow it's going to be some BS in the game. Boy, it never fails, man. It never fails, As a man, I'm going to have to be honest with you. Sometimes I wonder, and I hope things are going to be better for my children, you know what I mean? But experiencing racism the way I have experienced it in my life up to this point, you're on that thin line from being bitter, you know what I mean? And nobody want to be bitter. And I have to remind myself, man, that certain things you got to deal with, and you just have to continue life and do, what you can. But I think certain things happen to you to give you an ultimatum to say, are you going to continue to allow this to happen somehow, or are you going to fight back and gain your independence and you still have to deal with the family, It's one of them things, man, where you be like, damn. Man, it's crazy. Racism is a motherfucker. That's all I can say to keep it plain. I have experienced it on so different levels, and they say that if you went to juvenile, you're going to end up going to prison. You have a better chance. And I went to juvenile home at 14. A few years later, I went to prison. And I experienced it in there to the extreme where I seen faces and stares and eyes as they did it and said certain things that that we can do what we want to do to you now. You know what I mean? And I've been out here working on jobs where they'll say one thing and then they'll go another way. And if you're in a bind or a situation and you're trying to maintain, or you out on the road and now you like, huh? There's always been racism that has bothered me as a man in this life, and I didn't understand it with the way I was raised and how things was and why certain people had to live on certain parts of towns and why we had to have the options that we had growing up and why things was the way it was, We don't question it, we just think this is what it is. But it's racism. It's a motherfucker. Man. Tonight I'm just sitting here thinking about how it has affected me as a black man, with my children, with bills, with family, with taking care of responsibilities. Like, it has came in my life like a whirlwind, I can't say that I'm not surviving, you know what I mean? Because I still feel like I'm surviving, but I can't sit here and be naive and say that I haven't experienced it, that I don't go through it in ways that now it gives me a low tolerance to deal with certain things. If I can avoid them, I'm like, nah, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, not to put yourself in a bag, in a trick bag, you know what I mean? But like I say, man, it's been real. But racism is the only thing that has affected me in ways where it has kept me from growing, kept me from making certain moves. It is what it is, you know? So you have to grow up and just call the elephant in the room what he is. You know, he'll sit down and squat on anybody. Racism, boy, I tell you. Be safe out there, but being a African American, a black native, a black person, I think that's our fate in America. As long as we here, we're gonna experience some type of it. Even though we help build the country, we helping build and maintaining the country. You know what I mean? And still, it seems like we don't get any real help. There's no laws to really protect us. You know what I mean? There's no real infrastructure. There's no. We don't have the connections that we should have, the wealth that we should have. And sometimes you have to call it what it is. Sometimes people create their own situations and it's real. But you can't be on the grind and conscious and really trying to change things and do things and as a black person and say that you haven't experienced racism. You know what I mean? On some level. That you feel like you have to compromise when you really didn't want to, you know? But it's like sometimes it have you in a situation where you're like, damn, what's gonna happen? You ain't got no choice. You like, damn, they got me. You know what I mean? And ain't no way what you can do. You just like bend over. It's like, damn, boy, racism. That's some motherfucker.